Ever since Admiral Akbar captured the hearts and minds of the Star Wars audience with his shrewd ability to notice a trap, the Mon Calamari have played a major role in Star Wars stories and lore, filling out a significant chunk of the command hierarchy of the New Republic and subsequent governments, as well as becoming some of their key shipwrights. But today we're going to look past that, taking us into the past and seeing what they've been up to throughout galactic history. The home planet of the Mon Calamari, a planet sometimes called Mon Calamari or Mon Cala, but often just referred to by its inhabitants as Dak, resides near the furthest reaches of the Outer Rim. So despite their significant role in more modern galactic events, the inhabitants of Mon Calamari were not involved in the galaxy at large during the founding of the Republic, roughly 25,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. There was almost a book called History of the Old Republic, where we have some surviving art allegedly showing the first Supreme Chancellor, flanked by both a Mon Calamari and I think a Nikto, but luckily that isn't really canon since, as we're going to discuss today, neither of those really make sense being in the Republic at that point. It's not impossible that individuals may have found their way into the Republic, but according to most Legends lore, the Mon Calamari's first open contact with the Republic wouldn't come for over 20,000 years after the Republic's foundation. The Mon Calamari were never alone, though. On Dak itself, they were only one of a few fully sentient species. Most famously, there's of course the Mon Calamari, but there's also the Quarren, with whom the Mon Calamari have a somewhat complicated relationship. There's also a species of massive whale-like creatures called the Whalodon, who achieved at least some level of intelligence. And then we have the highly intelligent and sentient Knowledge Bank, a colony of bivalve mussels who were a somewhat closely guarded secret among the Mon Calamari and Quarren. Which is why you, as a likely human as far as I know, can only learn about them by liking this video and subscribing for more. The Mon Calamari, as in the species, always had their eyes set on exploring the stars. The Quarren were, at least initially, somewhat hesitant partners in this, mostly thinking the Mon Calamari were weird for wanting to go anywhere and they didn't see the point. The Quarren tended to live in underwater cities, while the Mon Calamari built floating cities on the surface of the world's vast oceans. So even from these early points, the Quarren were trying to stay as far away from space as possible. Early contact, so even pre-spaceflight, between the Quarren and the Mon Calamari was catastrophic for the Quarren, with a series of wars nearly driving them to extinction thanks to the superior technology of the Mon Calamari. The Mon Calamari ended up capturing the children of many Quarren families within their dwindling population at the end of one of these wars, and raised them in Mon Calamari cities for a decade before returning them to the Quarren, leading to a cultural divide between the older and younger Quarren. This was a pretty messed up thing to do, and it matches with many of the real-world programs rightly called genocidal. According to the Essential Guide to Alien Species, however, these younger Quarren ended up going back to the rest of the Quarren with a, quote, newfound respect for the Mon Calamari, and they believed the older generation of Quarren were savages. This is credited by the Essential Guide to Alien Species for the Quarren not ultimately just getting wiped out in another war, although it certainly contributed to a dynamic where the Quarren always felt like at best junior partners in their world. At some point, likely much later than 25,000 BBY-ish, which is when humans and Duros in the core were discovering hyperspace, a Mon Calamari mathematician named Q Visa invented something called the cavitation hyperdrive. This was slower than other drives, but we don't have much information on it. It likely, based on the name, involves some kind of cavity creation with fluids since everything Mon Calamari had to be wet. But this allowed the Mon Calamari, who lived under a monarchy, to begin spreading their kingdom through the stars, colonizing planets like Mon Aran in their home system, but also slightly further worlds like Ruisto, Mantan, and Hinaku between 4400 and 4200 BBY. During this period, the Quarren, while still isolationists at heart, feared the power being gained by the Mon Calamari through their expansion, and Quarren colonies soon were settled on Bukich, Pamont, and Mintuine, with the later two planets of those three becoming prominent shipbuilding worlds alongside Mon Calamari itself. While other local species interacted with the Mon Calamari and Quarren, like the Lamproids of Florn and the Vugbri of Gabu, which I'm pretty sure Vonda McIntyre made up for the Crystal Star by just smashing her keyboard, the expanding Mon Calamari kingdom and Quarren territory only made contact with the Republic after this initial colonization push, in 4166 BBY, when Republic scouts, clearing the end of the Prelemian trade route, made it to their sector near Ruisto. It wasn't until an unknown number of centuries later, possibly around the time of the Knights of the Old Republic era, when Mon Calamari was given an offer to join the Republic fully. The Mon Calamari were eager to join, but the Quarren less so. The Calamari king was forced to compromise by the Quarren chieftain Aladzah. Instead of fully joining the Republic, Mon Calamari and Quarren space would become an independent allied sector. We don't know how this relationship exactly evolved. The Quarren definitely got what they wanted in this situation, but by the time of the Clone Wars, there was definitely some direct representation in the Senate for both the Mon Calamari and the Quarren. Although it's possible this happened under the framework of them still being an allied sector. For the Quarren, there was Senator Tikis, and there was Mina Tills of the Mon Calamari. The Clone Wars are also where we get the last major conflagration of the tensions between the two species. The Mon Calamari, led by King Kalina, wanted to remain loyal to the Republic, while the Quarren, represented by the Isolationist League of Tikis and No Siree, which I only just realized is supposed to be like No Siree, great Star Wars, supported the CIS, using their considerable shipbuilding skills to supply several of the iconic ships of the CIS Navy, including the Providence class. King Kalina was killed during the war, but his son Li Char, 83rd King of the Mon Calamari, was able to somewhat reunite the Quarren and Mon Calamari, after repeated attempts to invade made it clear that the Quarren would fare no better under Dooku's plans. As the Empire came to power, the Mon Calamari and Quarren quickly became targets thanks to the Quarren separatism, allegedly, although ironically it was Quarren Isolation League holdouts, led by Secor Tells, who sabotaged the shield generators, allowing Tarkin's forces to sweep into the planet, killing Li Char and enslaving many Mon Calamari, including Admiral Akbar, who was forced to serve Tarkin personally for some time. The Ultimate Alien Anthology from 2003 has the Quarren attribute the enslavement and devastation brought on by the Empire to the Mon Calamari's decision to explore the galaxy, since it also kind of frames the Mon Calamari exploration as drawing the Empire's attention, which doesn't really line up with all the information we ever get anywhere else. So it's definitely a different idea of what the timeline would have looked like, really compressing the exploration to be closer to the Imperial period, maybe just in the Imperial period, but it still kind of works as the Quarren holding this millennia-long isolationist grudge, where the only result of the Mon Calamari exploration was forcing the pair of species into a galactic arms race and making the Empire ultimately subjugate them. Following this, the Mon Calamari became staunch supporters of the Rebel Alliance, while the Quarren once again attempted to remain mostly isolated. With the Rebel victory at Endor and the leadership of Akbar and other Mon Calamari admirals like Ragab and Namo within the early New Republic, not to mention their ships, Mon Calamari, meaning both the planet Dak and the species, remained a key player in galactic events, while the Quarren seemed to continue to get sidelined. Where Akbar was a galactic hero, the most high-profile Quarren was a senator named Poe, who embarrassed himself in what was essentially a coup attempt during the Yuzon Vong War in the wake of Chief of State Borsk Valia's death. Mon Calamari even temporarily served as the capital for the New Republic, and then the Galactic Alliance during the occupation of Coruscant shortly before Akbar himself died. Another Mon Calamari named Shah Nyathal even served in the Galactic Alliance Supreme Commander position, following the resignation of Gilad Pellaeon from that post in 40 ABY. This post was short-lived as she soon began to lead Alliance forces in exile, aligned with the Jedi against Darth Kaitis, the Sith identity of Jacen Solo, who had taken over the government of the Galactic Alliance proper. So, despite their questionable association with the Republic and being such late joiners, it's unquestionable that the Mon Cal quickly became key players in the galaxy. That's going to do it for today. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments if there's another topic you'd like to see covered on the channel, and special thanks to Marmar for editing this one. Hope to see you next time.